and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's a third instalment of our NFL mock draft. So we're here to preview the 2024 NFL draft. And with me, I've got three returning guests, to all make their picks in our third edition of the NFL mock draft. So I'm, as ever, your host, Andy Davies. And with me, I've got three guests. Now, first of all, I want a disclaimer, like I say every year, I don't watch college football that much, so I basically mainly rely on YouTube highlights and draft scouting reports to make my picks. But these three guys with me, they do watch college football. And first of all, we've got a college football writer with us today from the Touchdown, Rory-Joe Daniels. Rory, how have you been? How are things?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, excited for the draft. Looking forward to it now. We're nearly there, so.
And how do you normally watch the draft? Do you watch it live? Do you watch it the next morning? Record it and stuff like that, or do you just watch it, find out who got picked, and then watch the picks afterwards?
I watch it live, so I'm a sucker for it. I'll get up in the middle of the night and watch it right through. So yeah, that's how I'll do it. First two nights like that, and then obviously Saturday night's a bit more chilled out. It comes on a bit earlier, and you can sort of enjoy it with your evening.
Yeah, I think at that point, I think I think definitely first two rounds, there's a lot of guys you've seen, but I think it gets to a lot of people later on in the rounds where you don't know who they are, and it's a case where sometimes they've even been picked on commercial. Sometimes I remember in the NBA draft, I think Jokic or Doncic got picked during an advert break, and I think sometimes there are players who have done that in the past. Our third guest is another returning guest, another avid college football fan, an LSU fan. Back with us today is Freddy Harper-Davis. Freddy, how are things?
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to the draft. I think this year a bit because the last couple of years I've always found that it's not been all that. I haven't really seen any big trades coming or any big moves, and I feel that this year there really is potential for certain teams to make quite a splash. I mean, there's a few quarterbacks available, and that will mean there's quarterback needy teams, and there's plenty of those. But also, then that means that there's some very good players that are not quarterbacks that could slide down the draft a bit, and it'd be interesting to see where teams trade and what they go for. There's certainly a few teams that I've got on my draft board here that I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, and of course, like last year, we will be doing trades. So we all have each other's numbers, and we're going to make. If we want to offer a trade, we'll do it behind the scenes, and then if someone makes a trade with the other person, we'll then announce it on the draft, and you'll get some trades. There were a few last year, so hopefully the same again this year. And then finally, another NFL writer with us today. Back with us is another friend of the show. It's Sam Moore. Sam, how are you?
I'm great, mate. Thank you for having me on again. It's nice to be doing a podcast. It's not my own for once as well, so that's always it's always nice to branch out. so that's good. And yeah, I love the draft. Absolutely love the draft. I did a mock draft earlier in the week, and that was fun. And I've been doing mock drafts. Well, just on my own for fun for the last couple of months. So it's mad to think that we're now a couple of days from the draft, and yeah, I think this one's gonna be very interesting because not only are we going to see teams moving up for draft picks, we may even see players moved as well that are already in the NFL, like we have seen previously as well. So yeah, it's going to be a certainly interesting draft, and with the amount of offensive talent as well, I think that's a very good thing for the league because you're going to see, I think you could see a record amount of offensive players drafted this year in the first round anyway.
Yeah, I think that there's so many wide receivers, especially, and I think it's a good year for amount of quarterbacks that have been taken. I think we'll see quite a few again taken in the first few rounds. So just to make a start on this, so the picks that are on display. So I do have the number one overall pick as well as this. I'm just going to get the picks up now before I forget. So I'll be picking the Bears at 1, Chargers at 5, Bears at 9, Jags at 17, Raiders at 13, Dolphins at 21, Packers at 25, Lions at 29. Whereas Rory-Joe will be taking the Commanders at 2, Giants at 6, Jets at 10, Saints at 14, his Bengals at 18, Eagles at 22, Bucks at 26, and Ravens at 30. Sam will be taking the Patriots at 3, Titans at 7, Vikings at 11, Colts at 15, Rams at 19, Vikings at 23, Cardinals at 27, and the 49ers at 31. And then Freddie will be taking the Cardinals at 4, Falcons at 8, Broncos at 12, Seahawks at 16, Steelers at 20, Cowboys at 24, Bills at 28, and the Chiefs at 32. But of course, this could all change position-wise down the line. So let's get the mock draft underway, and with the easiest pick of the whole draft, the biggest lock I've ever seen for number one overall pick. With the first overall pick, the Bears will be taking Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC. I think that's pretty obvious. It's the most, I think years gone by, there's been a lot of smoke screens. Could they take this player? I remember the particular one where Baker Mayfield got taken. There was talks of Rosen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. And yeah, I think this year, you've seen Keenan Allen, who just got traded to the Bears, go into his pro day. And you've seen Ryan Poles attending it and stuff like that. I think it's the most obvious quarterback, obvious number one overall pick. But any of you think there's any chance they don't take him, or is it all but locked in?
It's done.
That silence said it all. That's all we need to know. That's yeah. I don't see any sort of Kevin Costner draft day style shocks at the number one overall pick. I think it's pretty much locked in. So heading on to pick number 2, it is the Commanders, and over to Rory-Joe.
Yeah, so I think Commanders, obviously everybody knows they're looking at quarterback, reset the franchise now, get somebody as a signal caller going forward. I personally, I'm a big Drake May fan. I think there's a lot of potential there, big arm. But in this mock draft, I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. I think it's probably the most likely from what people are saying. I know I listened to Diana Rossini on The Athletic today, and she was saying a lot of the league was higher on Daniels than they were May, and that was by a wide margin. So I think this will be the pick on the night, even though I would probably go May myself. So Jaden Daniels for the Commanders.
And so the Patriots now on the clock at pick 3. Over to Sam. Here you go.
No, this is an interesting one, Andy, because I own the Patriots picks, but I also own both of the Vikings picks as well, so I could look to trade up here. For New England, it's certainly an interesting choice because I think Drake May is probably the guy they would want to take at 3, but with the way that roster is, I don't see them even contending for meaningful games for a very long time now. So, and if they do throw him in straight away, it may not pan out at all. So I've got that in the back of my mind as well. I think the smart thing to do here is if Minnesota offer a hefty package, which is what I'm going to do, New England probably should trade down because put it this way, you're going to get 2 first-round picks this year and maybe another 1 or 2. Moving up from 11 to 3. Maybe another 1 or 2 on top of that as well, or maybe a second-round pick as well. And I think that's very smart for the state the Patriots roster is in. So I'm going to draft number 3 overall for the Vikings. I'm going to draft Drake May. I think he's a great fit there as well because he's a guy who's maybe not. It's very polarizing, isn't he? It's either everyone loves him or there are people who think he should sit. And this is a great situation for him to sit because you've got some great offensive coaches in the Vikings staff. You've also got Sam Darnold there as well, who I think the Vikings staff really like as well. So maybe he could play this year. So I'm going to take Drake May at 3. I'm going to 11, 23, and then some other picks as well to move up so the Patriots trade down. And Drake May is a Viking.
Interesting. The first trade of this mock draft. Over to number 4, to Freddy for the Cardinals. You're on the clock.
Oh, this is such a tough one. I've not had any offers for trading down because this was one I put in the chat about lunchtime today to say, if anyone wants to trade down with the Cards, please do, because this Cardinals roster is an absolute mess. But I've not had any trade offers, and with the other teams I've got, I don't see anyone who I think is going to move up to 4. I don't think Denver's got the capital, so they're the only team I would consider even going up, but I don't think they've got enough to get up to 4 for the minute. So I'm going to go with the best player available. 3 quarterbacks have gone. The Cardinals have got Kyler Murray. I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I think that there's talk of the Cardinals being open for business, but I think if you're a Cardinals GM, I don't think you move off the chance because I think Marvin Harrison is, I think, right now one of the best prospects we've seen in years at the position. And I think we all know it's in his genes from what his father did. And yeah, I think the Cardinals, they have to just go for it. I don't think they should even, unless someone goes, we're going to give you 4 first rounders or 3 first rounders. And this is an amazing, amazing offer. I think the Cardinals should really be looking to stay at number 4 if possible. Speaking of best player on the board, number 5 is the Chargers on the clock, and I'm going for the best player on the board. I'm going for an offensive weapon. I'm going for Brock Bowers out of Georgia, the tight end. I think, they have struggled, they've lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams out the door. They're struggling for a wide receiver, but I just think that from what I've seen from Brock Bowers, he is a receiving tight end. He reminds me of obviously a Kelsey in terms of what he can do. Just looking at the notes I've made on him after watching his page, what they can find him. So I loved what I watched in terms of his receiving ability. Looking at his stats, he had 14 yards per game, 19 touchdowns, almost 3,000 yards in his time at college. And I saw him do many different things. I saw him break tackles. I saw him make a one-handed catch. I think that was against Auburn. And I also saw him doing a Deebo Samuel kind of move as well, where he was so flexible and fast for a tight end, which normally isn't really a fast position. So for me, I love what I see in Brock Bowers. Again, we said the same thing about Kyle Pitts, but John Harbaugh is twice head coach that Arthur Smith is. So for me, I think he's going to a great situation if he goes there, a great head coach. And Brock Bowers going to the Chargers at number 5. Now going back to Rory-Joe with pick number 6 and the Giants, who are on the clock.
Okay. So there's an outside chance that this could be a quarterback. Obviously, they're looking for a replacement for Daniel Jones long term. For me, I wouldn't do it. I think there's a lot of talent on the board before you'd get down to taking the 4th quarterback with this pick. So I think I'll give them a receiver. I'll give them Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I think they will give Jones a chance there to have a season with a top class receiver. Obviously, there's a little bit threadbare there receiving room last year. So I think you've got a true number 1 receiver there, an elite talent. And it gives Jones a chance, if he can stay healthy, to maybe have a half-decent season and give the Giants some question marks going into next year, whether they'll move on and draft somebody else or whether they can stick with him. But I think Neighbors long-term is a good solution.
Okay. I like that. I mean, watching his tip, I really liked what I saw. I think for me, after Harrison, I'd probably have him as the next best. I really like what I saw from his 5-minute YouTube highlight reel. Shout out to Just Bomb production, but I really liked what I see. Moving on to number 7 and the Tennessee Titans. Over to Sam.
Right, I am gonna trade down. I've had 2 offers. I've had both Andy and Freddy. I'm going to trade down to Freddy because it's a QB needing team, so he'd offer me more. So yeah, the Broncos are now on the clock.
Okay, interesting. And I have a feeling I know where this is going, but nevertheless, who are the Broncos taking at pick number 7? Actually,
this is risky, but
what did the Broncos give up to get this pick? Just out of curiosity.
I think I'd have to give a first next year because I don't know what else I can give really to go 5 picks from 12 to 7.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
Yeah. And the Broncos I know the Broncos haven't got a 2nd round pick this year, but they need a quarterback more than anybody. So yeah, they're jumping up and they're taking JJ McCarthy from Michigan. So
yeah, for me, I have felt this for a number of weeks now. I can just see McCarthy in Broncos orange. I can just see it. I don't know why, because he played for Michigan, who played in white uniforms and blue uniforms. But there's something about, I don't know. I had this image in my head of just seeing him in a Broncos jersey. I think for him it's perfect because he's not. I think there's a lot of smoke screen. Could he go number 2nd overall? I think it'll be another year where, like Mac Jones, it won't happen. He'll go sort of in the 10, 11, 12, sort of 13 range. And I just think that the Broncos, he would obviously go there and be the starter. Zach Wilson would not really have a chance. I know he's just moved there, but no, personally, yeah, I think McCarthy is the guy Broncos will take. There was some talk about the Chargers. I just think Percy Harbaugh's just trying to get his former quarterback a better move. So yeah, I think I'll stick with Herbert. But I think it would be the shock of all shocks if they were to take McCarthy 5th overall. That would be certainly, I think, one of the big shocks in recent years on a draft night. That would be sensational. But But moving on to the 8th overall pick, this is now the turn of the Falcons. Back with Freddie.
Oh yeah, it's me again. Again, I think this is quite easy. The Falcons need edge rushers basically. That is the way to go with the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, hang on a minute. I will just pause a couple of seconds as I've just had a.
No. Oh.
I'm just gonna see. I've got an interesting arrangement. Let's.
Go on. This is really intriguing now because I've got a guy that I really want to take next, and I'll say more once it's been picked. But yeah, there's a guy I'm hoping that will fall to me here with my next picks. I'm hoping whoever's made this trade, if it gets accepted, isn't going to take what I think they're going to take.
Yeah, hold the horses a minute. We're just in discussion. This will have to be an interesting. It'll have to be a big trade for me to turn down because I have got my eye on a player.
Do you know what? I would love to see more of that in the real life coverage in terms of seeing. Obviously, they probably can't reveal that, but I would love to be a fly on the wall for things like that. You know, when they make trades and when it's like their picks coming up and they've got like the 10-minute clock running down. I would love to be in the war room more of that and see what goes on because that must be an amazing watch. See men at work here. There's I'm trying to work out who's making the offer. I got a feeling it's Rory, but I could be wrong.
Right, I'm gonna turn it down because I've got the guy I've got in mind. I'm taking Dallas Turner with the Falcons.
Yeah, that for me is something I can see. For me, it's again through watching his tape, I found what I loved about him was how quick he was off the edge. So like when the ball snapped, how quick he was to go out there, and also how good he was in terms of those battles between the trenches, going up against defensive linemen. I thought he was really impressive. There's other guys who had the same sort of thing, but I thought Dallas Turner was, for me, the best edge rusher I saw in my time watching the tape. Pick number 9, and the Chicago Bears are on the clock, and I thought this guy is a lock for number 7, but he's not gone to number 7 because the Titans did trade down. So I'm going to go with the Bears. They're going to take, with 9th overall pick, the offensive lineman, Joe Alt. I think, for me, he is the best lineman on the board. I'm convinced he'll go to the Titans at 7, but he's available, and I think that what you want, whoever you are, whichever team you are, whichever quarterback you take, is to protect him to the max. And the Bears didn't really do that with Justin Fields enough. So I think to go and get someone like Joe Alt, now I was thinking if he was going to go, my next plan was wide receiver. Maybe go another one, but for me, they've already got Keenan Allen. They've already got, his name's completely passed by the tight end, Cole Kmet. They've already got Keenan Allen. I think they've got enough there weapons to be dealing with, but I don't think they've got enough alignment to be on their team to help Caleb Williams enough. So yeah, Joe Alt for me is the man. Now moving on to the 10th overall pick. This is the turn of the Jets and Rory-Joe.
Yeah, that's thrown me off a little bit there because I didn't think that was where you were going. So I thought the Jets were going to get a bit of a steal there and take an offensive lineman as a sort of a backup this year, and then to take over. And they would have got Alt, obviously. I think I'm still going to stay in that area. Obviously, Bowers is already off the board, and he's been a popular pick to the Jets in mock drafts. So we'll have a little rearrange of the draft board, and I think we're going to go with JC Latham out of Alabama. So I think what we'll get is NFL teams are going to be higher on him, I think, than a lot of mock draft teams. A lot of mock drafts are seeing him sort of in the middle of this round. I think he's got excellent pedigree, big, physical, difficult to move. I think that's going to play a big part in what pro teams see. I think he's proved it at the highest level. He's athletic testing, there is no athletic testing on him. That's the big drawback. We don't know whether or not he's not as freaky as an athlete as somebody like Fashanu. But I think for the Jets, they need to make it work and get somebody that's going to come in straight away and give them versatility. They could even move him to guard. So that's why I think Latham's a good choice. And eventually down the line, he's going to be able to take over one of them left tackle or right tackle spots.
Yeah, I mean, their team are certainly all in. I mean, I think the minute they got Aaron Rodgers through the door, that was their sign of being all in. And I think that obviously last year was obviously almost like a delayed year because obviously the whole season's plan went down the drain and 4 snaps on offense. So I think, I think in a way that might help them. Mike Burrow's injury helped the Bengals go and get someone like Jamar Chase. If he was fully fit, they wouldn't have been in that position unless they traded up. And I think the Jets will benefit from that as well. I mean, there's talk of Brock Bowers. I think that would be good. And I think just getting more offensive line help would be, again, a big thing for them because that's one thing I think that would have been an issue for Aaron Rodgers if he was healthy. And I think that was a lot to talk about it in Hard Knocks was the fact he wasn't getting much protection from his linemen. So, yeah, I'm not. If I was a Jets fan, I wouldn't be against that either. Now, if I'm right in saying this will be the Patriots now through the trade, so back with you, Sam.
Yeah. Which receiver went at 6? Because I forgot him.
Malik Neighbours.
Okay, so that's fine. Either way, I'm taking Romadunze here because I think that's a steal for the Patriots. Trading down and then taking a player who quite easily could go, sort of 5, 6, 7 range, so getting him at 11 is perfect. Yes, we'll address quarterback later. Again, I think just getting talent, he's by far the best player available. So give me Rome Odunze to the Patriots at 11, and I'm on the clock again afterwards with Tennessee. So
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because the trades. Yeah, so this one's a bit more difficult because probably the 2 best offensive linemen, or at least 2 offensive linemen are gone, and that's where I think Tennessee should target. Again, a receiver could have been an option because DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent at the end of the season, so that future proofing your roster, you could say that. There's also they're crying out for a pass rush, and what many people believe is the best pass rusher on in the class, Latu out of UCLA. Now there's injury history, so he may fall, and also and that's why Dallas Turner is the sort of favourite to go above him. But from everyone that I listen to and everyone that I've read, Latu is probably the best pass rusher in the draft, and getting him at 12 again for the Titans, trading down, getting some extra picks, and then taking him, adding to their pass rush. It's addressing need, but also going for one of the best players available as well. So I like that pick.
Nice. Yeah, I liked him a lot. I liked his tape, and he was one of the guys I'd earmarked for the next pick, but he now is taken. And it is the Raiders who are on the clock. So I'm torn between 2 players. Now I'm torn between edge and wide receiver because you can go edge and have him alongside Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins and all of that. I just think that Adams is getting older. Jacoby Myers is not on WR1, and I think that if you've got a guy that can come in, I think the 3rd choice right now is Trey Tucker for the Raiders, and I think that if you get a guy that can be the 2nd or 3rd choice receiver for a year or 2, learn off one of the best receivers of his generation, and then in 2 or 3 years' time, with more experience, become that number 1 guy. I think that's what they need to do, especially if they do get a quarterback this year for the future or next year. And I'm torn between 2 wide receivers, and I'm going to go for the guy that actually is probably lower of the 2 on mock drafts, but I just like what I see more, and I think that he reminds me a lot of OBJ, and Freddy will like this pick a lot. I'm going for Brian Thomas Jr. Now, some will say that could be a reach, but the Raiders do like to have reaches in their drafts. They're the biggest reaches in recent years. They always seem to every year make what people assume is a reach. So Brian Thomas Jr., I love what I saw from his tape. Just pure speed, and he just reminded me of Odell Beckham Jr. the way he would just be able to beat receivers one-on-one. I mean, I did like Adonai Mitchell, and you could easily go with him as well. I just liked what I saw from Brian Thomas, and I think 17 touchdowns in 2023, over 1,000 yards as well. Although so it was 12 touchdowns in 2023. 24 touchdowns in total in college. Yeah, I liked what I saw, and I think the Raiders will go for him at number 13. Freddie, thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that's good move. And actually, to be honest, I think even for the Raiders, that's not as much of a reach as normal. So no,
Okay.
I think that's a very solid pick.
Fantastic. So pick number 14 is the Saints, who are on the clock, and with Rory-Joe Daniels.
Yeah, I think I'm back looking at offensive lineman again, to be honest. This was where I was trying to trade up from originally with Freddy. So I was trying to jump over the Jets because Alt was still on the board. So that was the thinking behind that one. We've still got plenty of decent offensive linemen on there. It's just coming down to probably Fashanu and Fuaga. I'm going to go Olu Fashanu because I see him more as a purely a tackle prospect. For me, Fuaga, I think will be a really good guard. I think he can survive at tackle, but Fashanu as purely as a left tackle. I think the Saints have got concerns at right tackle with Ryan Ramczyk. Obviously, the injuries, whether he's even going to be able to come back is something that's up in the air. And I think Trevor Penning's been disappointing as a first round pick. So I don't think there'll be two. Maybe they'll shift him across to the right side and let Olu Fashanu carry on in the position he played at Penn State. Very athletic, very young. I think he's suffered a little bit in the pre-draft process. Obviously, he's got very small hands. Hand size is an issue with him. And on tape, occasionally you see him get bullied with power. But I think it's something that he can work out, and overall his game is fantastic, and the way he moves is unbelievable for a guy his size. So I think the Saints will be very happy to get their left tackle of the future with this pick.
Okay, now over to pick number 15 in the draft, and this is back with Sam for the Indianapolis Colts, who are now on the clock.
Yeah, this one's a fun one because I think there's two areas they can target, either a receiver, maybe even via trade up. I saw that Peter Schrager in his mock draft had them trading up to get a receiver. I think that's certainly a possibility, and he's one of the most accurate mock drafters as well because of his contacts in the industry. The other thing I think I can see them doing is going for a corner, and no corner has been taken yet, so you've got your pick of the bunch. I think many people regard Quinion Mitchell to be the best one. The only problem with him is he's been at a small school in Toledo, so there is a little bit of a concern there. But I'm gonna go for him. I think that's a good fit for the Colts. So yeah, I'm gonna go for Quinion Mitchell. Just adding to that defense, and I think they'll be pretty good next season. I'm especially with Richardson back as well. I'm looking forward to watching the Colts next year.
Okay, well, just after rejecting my trade, we're now back with Freddie, who did turn down my offer to go from 17 to 16 to Freddie, who you're taking with the Seahawks and number 16, who are on the clock.
Yeah, this is difficult because the Seahawks, again, I think need a tackle. They also need defensive tackles as well. So I'm kind of lost between the two. It's both lines. I think they just need to bolster. I mean, they could technically trade up for a quarterback as well. Wasn't ruling that out when coming up with my plan for what I was going to do with Seattle. I also even considered trading down the Seahawks with my Steelers, but again, I don't think we'll do that on Thursday. So yeah, I think I am going to go a little bit against the grain here. I've seen a lot of people say that they're going to go offensive tackle. I'm going to go defensive tackle, I think. I'm still considering whether I'm still open to trade offers if anyone does want to come in last minute. Because I'm very much on the this is the one team I was not quite so sure what to do with.
Well, I made my offer to you.
I'm going to reach a bit here. I'm going to take Byron Murphy from Texas.
Okay, Byron Murphy. Okay, fantastic. Well, it leaves 17, and I'm surprised this guy's still here. I think every year we all have a draft crush. Every year there's a player that you love their tape and you love watching them during their time in college. And this is my guy. I've gone for 17. I do have the Jaguars with pick number 17, who are on the clock. And I'm going for a cornerback out of Alabama. I'm going for Terrion Arnold. Now, this guy I love watching because, first of all, I found he was really good in particularly zone coverage, but also man-on-man coverage. I thought there was so many times where he would just find space out of nowhere and make an important interception. He had 5 interceptions, 63 total tackles, and 12 passes defended in 2023. And he had a 99-yard kick return touchdown in one of his games as well in college. I really like what I saw. It was explosive. It was just something I really love to watch. And I think that the Jags were to get him. I think London's in for a treat when he's playing there every year. So yeah, that is my pick at number 17 for Jacksonville. So we're now heading to pick number 18, which is going to be, I've actually forgotten who that is. Apologies to listeners. So pick number 18 is going to be back with Rory-Joe and his Bengals. So, of course, we have tried to give as many people as possible their own teams. Of course, me and Sam, someone had to fall by the wayside. But, yeah, Rory, over to you.
Yeah, the draft board was looking pretty good for us. And then those 2 picks were 2 players that I really, really wanted. Byron Murphy would have been brilliant for us. Obviously, big need in the middle of the defensive line. So I think we'll have to focus on offensive tackle. Because I think that's where the talent is at the top of my draft board at this point. So I'm going to go with Talisi Fuaga out of Oregon State. As I said before, he played tackle at college. I think he could be a better guard just because I think he doesn't deal as well with speed off the edge. But he's very powerful, very gritty, very physical, and that's what you like on the tape. So I think the Bengals will be happy. I think you bring him in, he'll back up Trent Brown at right tackle. But I think he could also push Cordell Volson at left guard for the first season. Wouldn't be surprised if they would let him have a bash at that as a positional battle. But yeah, I think they'd be happy with Fuaga and plug him in there and protect Joe Burrow.
Fantastic. We are going to head to a quick break. But when we return, we're going to go through the rest of the draft. We've done 1 to 18 so far. We've got pretty much almost half of that left to go from pick number 19 to 32. In the break, you can find out what we're looking forward to next week as I spoke to organizer and leader of the JTT Charity Cup, Matt Cullen. See you guys in a moment.
Platform to talk about it. Give us the platform, share stuff about it on social media. I love doing it. And I love the community kind of feel that it gives the people that enter as well.
It must take some admin to create all the leagues.
It does, but I have I've had obviously a few years of practice, and I've got a small team of people, guys that help me, so that they just all look after 5 divisions each during the season, so that I don't have to post information into 50 or 60 divisions. I post it to them, and they then post it to 5 divisions each. So it worked really well last year, and I'm really thankful for them because again, they just give their time up to help me. They're a good set of guys, and yeah, so really pleased where we're at for this year, and continuing the drive for more people and more money raised, because that's the most important thing.
And welcome back to part 2 of this Across the Pod mock draft. Now, in the break we've had, there's been a trade. So Sam, tell us more about this trade that's gone on.
Right, so I'm trading 2 of my own sort of team selections around. The Patriots, after trading down with the Vikings, are trading back up to grab their quarterback with the Rams. The Rams are moving down. So the Patriots are giving up 23. They're giving up 68 as well. And they're giving up a 3rd round pick in 2025 for the Rams' 19th pick, and also the 83rd overall pick as well. So they're moving down in a 3rd, and they're giving up a 3rd next year as well. And the Patriots are going to draft Michael Penix Jr., reuniting Rome Odunze with his obviously his quarterback in college at Washington, the quarterback Michael Penix, again injury history, but I think many people, I think this is the last 1st round grade they have on a quarterback. Bo Nix may sneak into the 1st round, but I think if there wasn't the injury history with Penix, I think he would, and also maybe the age, so he's a bit of an older quarterback, he would certainly be considered a 1st round pick. So I think jump up 19 just to avoid being jumped. I think it's only you don't have to give up much at all, and the Patriots get one of the best receivers we've seen in the draft recently, and a quarterback, and they've got extra picks for next year as well. So I think they'd be quite happy with that draft.
Yeah, something I would not want to see if it happened in real life. Them get their quarterback and and the best wide receiver that is in Marvin Harrison Jr. So yeah, that wouldn't be for me and you, Sam. Wouldn't be the most favoured pick in the world, but it may well happen. So we are now on to pick 20. And that means our second fan pick of the episode. So Freddie is picking for his Steelers at pick number 20.
In fact, I'm not, because I am having a trade with myself. So the trade I'm going to do is with the Buffalo Bills. So
okay,
the Bills are going to give up a 2025 second round pick, and the Steelers will give up a 2023 fourth round pick. So that's 2024 fourth round pick. So it's going to be a swap of those. So the Bills moved from 28 to 20, and the Steelers obviously moved down. Mostly because of my Steelers board, 4 of the 5 players that I want from the Steelers are still there. And the Bills, for me, need a wide receiver. So I'm going in, and I'm going to take the one guy that's actually left, I believe. And he's the guy who hit all the headlines for going very quickly in the combine not that long ago. So I'm going to take Xavier Worthy for the Bills, because they need speed and they need a weapon, and I think they'll trade up and get a receiver, and that's the guy I think they'll take.
Interesting, because there's a lot of I saw on my sleeper app my phone saying it happened at 3:31 p.m. is that the one name I've heard circled for Miami from other teams is Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy, who obviously would, if they're going to go wide receiver, it would be the guy that they would go for, because he is ridiculously fast, and that's what.
And that's also why I did it, because I wanted to jump you.
Well, if I'm honest, I wasn't planning on going. I was planning on going offensive line anyway for 21. I did think that's more of a need. But Daniel, I believe, was the only head coach who watched the offensive lineman in the combine. So that's where I'm going. And again, it's another guy that I'm surprised that he is still there. Just going to get his full name out, because I've forgotten what his first name is. So this obviously is our third fan pick of the episode. Of course, it is my team, the Miami Dolphins, at pick number 21. And I'm going to go for a interior lineman, a center, Oregon's Jackson Powers Johnson at 21. I think center's a big need of ours, with Connor Williams being such a big part of our team. And I think when he went down, I'm sure Sam will agree, our season wasn't really the same after he went down. I think his record was 9-1 or something, 8-1 when he started, and then something like 4-4 when he wasn't playing. And I think that obviously he's not coming back. They reckon maybe not ever again in the NFL. There's a lot of talk about the injury being worse than feared. And we brought in some guys in free agency, but none of them really are guaranteed to play and be a starter. So yeah, I think that's where Dolphins need to go, offensive line. And Powers Johnson is the guy that we're going to take with 21, which leaves us to pick number 22, which is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, courtesy of Rory-Joe Daniels.
So with this one, I'm looking at cornerback. I think that's the biggest need on the roster for the Eagles at the minute. We've got James Bradbury and Darius Slay, so obviously they could do with an injection of youth into the defensive backfield. A couple of good options still on the board. I'm going to go with Iowa's Cooper DeJean. I'm not sure whether he'll stick at cornerback in the NFL, but he certainly has done a good job there for the Hawkeyes. Now, I think he probably lands as like a free safety eventually. Athletically, he's really good. He's got speed, he's got range. It's just whether or not he's going to sort of be able to cope with the press man coverage aspects of being in the NFL. But I think they'll find that out. They'll be able to utilise him in that scheme, move him around a little bit, and he might end up replacing Reed Blankenship. But I think he's the strongest defensive back still on the board, so I think they'll be happy that he's fallen a little bit and snap him up there.
Okay. Now we'll pick number 23, and that's courtesy of the Rams via the Patriots, via the Vikings. And back with Sam.
Yeah, via the Texans as well. It was the Texans' original pick before the Vikings got it. I think the Rams will be absolutely laughing if they're in this situation, because the three guys they're probably hiring up, taking at 19 are still there. at 23. In you got Troy Faltani, you've also got Amarius Mims, a massive offensive tackle. I think that they'd like to get their hands on, and then you've also got Jason Newton in the defensive interior as well. And obviously they have the Aaron Donald shaped hole in that defensive line as well. So I've got plenty of choice here. So much choice. I don't know what I'm going to go for. This is an interesting one. With they got some free agents coming up on the offensive line. Both Noteboom and Alaric Jackson are coming up, so I think they probably do want to address the offensive line, and they may feel like you can get value in defensive line in the second round. Because they've just got over, and the third round as well, because they've got the extra pick from the Patriots as well. So I'm gonna go for Amarius Mims, a guy who I think many see as a project. Is a massive guy, but I think he doesn't, and may think he might not even play in year one. But but they've got the Rams got the flexibility where they've actually got a pretty decent offensive line now. So if he's not ready to play, he doesn't, they can just sort of wait and then wait for Noteboom to go to free agency and then play him. And I think it's a sort of it's a high. A very, very high reward pick for the Rams if it pans out. So yeah, give me Amarius Mims to them at 23.
Well, now it's time for America's team and the Dallas Cowboys at pick number 24, courtesy of Freddy Harper-Davis.
Well, I had Amarius Mims going to the Cowboys, so that's quite annoying. That was exactly who I had in mind. I think the Cowboys are going to go offensive line. They could go a number of things. We've got quite a few older players in certain positions that they could need to shift on and move on from. But I'm going to go with Tyler Guyton, who is big, physical, and he's for a tackle. He's a swift mover and somebody I think that the Cowboys will plug in and play in their O-line. So, I'm a bit annoyed that Mims wasn't there for the Cowboys because they're the sort of team that like to go for a bit of a rogue project. But I'm going to go down the Guyton route.
Okay, that means back to me with pick number 25, and it's now the turn of the Green Bay Packers. So for my guy, now I'm another guy that I'm surprised is still on the board. I was expecting to go before this pick, but I'm going to go for. I really apologize if I mispronounced this guy's name. I'm going for Troy Fatanu, offensive tackle for Washington. The defensive lineman trend continues. And yeah, from what I saw, really excellent in the pass block. I watched some of his tape from his time there watching, and I really liked what I saw. From his ability to pass block, particularly, didn't see as much running blocking, but I did see a lot of excellence in that pass block. And I think that with the young receivers they've got, and of course the young quarterback like Jordan Love, I think you're going to want to protect him. And the Packers, we all know, they've got a history of never taking wide receivers anyway, and they've already got a few to deal with anyway. So I think this is perfectly on Packers brand, and I'm going to go for Troy Fatanu at 25, which means we are back now with 26, which of course is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and back with Rory-Joe Daniels, who are now on the clock.
Yeah, I'm not going to mess around with this one. I think they'd be quite happy to take Jared Verse out of Florida State here, and the edge. I think he represents good value. Obviously, they got good production from Yaya Diaby last year. They've got Joe Tryon, who probably hasn't lived up to the first round, but obviously he has flashed as well. I think if you put Verse into that rotation, you've got a really strong group. Verse is very powerful off the edge. Needs to get a bit more nuance probably, and that's probably why he's fallen to like the sort of third edge rusher out of that Latu and Turner group. But I think at this point in the draft, he's a really good, almost a steal, I would say there.
Okay, so now we are at pick number 27, which is the Arizona Cardinals at back with Sam Morse.
I'm gonna I'm going to take another offensive lineman. This time it is going to be Graham Barton. He's listed as a tackle out of Duke, but don't be surprised to see him read out as a guard on Thursday night, or maybe even as a centre, because I think maybe people feel like because we've got short arms, he will play inside. But again, for the Cardinals, just getting offensive line help. If you would have told them that they're getting Marvin Harrison and an offensive lineman that in some mocks is going as high as like pick 12, 13, 14, I think they'd be very happy. So yeah, just beefing up the offensive line. Graham Barton, he may play tackle for them, but I'll probably expect him to play a guard, and then that's a good pick for them, I think.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Pick number 28 is courtesy of Freddy's own trade, back with his own Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I've got some interesting options here because I was going to go across the offensive line, but now the three guys the three guys I wanted have gone. That was part of the plan because the other options, obviously for the Steelers, a wide receiver is a big need for the Steelers. But I think the Steelers are the sort of team that will go into the second and third round and pick somebody for there. The other position of need, I think, is a cornerback. We've got one in Joey Porter Jr. And we made a very bizarre trade with the Panthers for a backup corner in Dante Jackson. We're left with a bit of a need there, really. And there's still quite a few corners left on the board. I think I've been trying to keep hold of all the names, but I think is Mitchell still on the board?
No, he is gone.
No, he's gone. I'll take him with the Colts. Yeah.
Okay. He was one, and then the other one I had in mind was Wiggins hasn't gone, has he?
No.
Nate Wiggins it is.
That was my next pick. That was damn it. Well, that is 5. Now I can give the Lions at pick number 29 the coolest name in the entire draft. I'm going for Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. I mean, that is such a cool name, and I think that if your name's like that, you've got to have some sort of really cool personality, and I think that'll fit in well with the Lions locker room. So yeah, McKinstry to the Lions at pick number 29, which now leaves pick number 30, which is back for Rory-Joe's final pick of the draft, unless a trade happens with the Baltimore Ravens.
So I'm going to take on what the Ravens usually do, and as a Bengals fan, it's the most annoying thing ever, is what they usually do is grab the sort of highest player that's falling, and on my board that would be Jerzan Newton. Now it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Ravens because obviously they've just signed Madubuike to a huge deal, defensive tackle, but I don't think they could pass up on Newton still being there. I think they'll just say, yeah, good player, and it's what the Ravens do all the time. They just find the good players, and they're not really that bothered about sort of plugging in position, just keep drafting solid players. And I think if you put Newton and Madubuike together next to each other, as a Bengals fan, it scares the living daylights out of me. So I think Ravens fans would be happy.
Yeah, I think one thing we see with the Ravens a lot is sometimes they just pile up in positions that aren't even a need. They just go for the best player on the board, like you say, and I think that would be, again, like I said earlier, with another team, certainly on Ravens brand. Now, pick number 31 is the penultimate pick of this mock draft, and it is the San Francisco 49ers, and we are back with Sam.
Right, so the two positions I was eyeing with the Niners, it would be cornerback, but we've just had a run of that on them, and then it would be receiver because there's a lot of speculation about Brandon Ayuk potentially moving on. They may not have the cap room to pay him, so I'm gonna future proof that just in case. I'm gonna draft AD Mitchell out of Texas. He's seen Xavier Worthy go to Buffalo. He's going to be the second Texas wideout to be drafted, and he's just going to be there. He's going to contribute to the Niners straight away, and if they do move on from Brandon Ayuk, then he can be the number 2 guy next to Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I loved watching his tape, and I was torn between him and Brian Thomas Jr. when I made the Raiders pick, and I loved the fact that he was so good on one-on-one coverage and sort of creating that separation. I found through watching
Which is what Brandon Ayuk is also very good at. So there you go.
Well,
If you are going to replace him,
well, funny because I was literally thinking when I was watching his tape, he does remind me a bit of Brandon Ayuk. So I think that would be. I mean, I think personally he should be a top 20 pick, but again, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes that down that far as well. And I think that it would be, one of the situations where a player just comes in, because part of the problem you get if you're a good player in college is that you go to the worst team and therefore you don't have any success when it comes to pros for that reason, particularly the quarterback, but other positions. But I think we see a lot of times players that just become available that are just instantly fit in. I think we saw CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys a few years ago. And I think if that was to happen with Mitchell going to the Niners, I think that would be a worrying sign for the rest of the NFC. Let's put it that way. Finally, our final selection of the entire of our first round mock draft. I'm back with Freddie and the Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs.
It's been quite annoying this mock draft because he was the top of my board for the Chiefs.
That's like 3 or 4 times I've done that to you now, Freddie. I'm
You've
sorry.
done that a few times tonight. And, the Chiefs are, I think, wide receiver is a fairly obvious draft need for them. Although, to be fair, they could have me at wide receiver and still find a way for Patrick Mahomes to get them the needed yardage at the moment. So, I reckon they might take a bit of a punt here because and go for a guy who didn't feature too much in college, but in terms of at Georgia, but he's got something about him, and he's been projected to go very high in the draft. Maybe a second round pick. Maybe this is a bit of a reach, but the Chiefs are in a position where they can take a risk on a receiver and see what happens. So I reckon they're going to go with Ladd McConkey.
Yes, love it. That's what I would have done. Love it.
Amazing. And that is the end of our draft. Just to recap, the picks from 1 to 32. There's Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels. The Vikings traded up to get Drake May 3rd overall. The Cardinals took Marvin Harrison Jr. 4th overall. Barrows to the Chargers at 5th. Neighbors to the Giants at 6th. The Denver Broncos traded up and took JJ McCarthy 7th overall. Dallas turned to the Falcons at 8, and then the rest of it goes Joe Alt at 9, JC Latham at 10, Romeo Dunze via the Patriots at 11, Lyle Latu via the Titans at 12. Then it's Brian Thomas Jr., Olu Fashanu, Quinton Mitchell, Byron Murphy, Terrion Arnold, Talisa Fuaga, Michael Penix Jr. via the Patriots in a trade, Xavier Worthy via trade to the Bills, Jackson Powers Johnson, Iowa's Cooper DeJean, and via the Patriots and the Rams, Marius Mims, Tyler Guyton, Troy Fatanu, Jared Verse, Graham Barton, via Pittsburgh in a trade, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jerzon Newton, Adonai Mitchell, and Georgia's Lapa Conkey. So that is where we will conclude this year's draft. Before we go, any of you have any players that you thought would have gone but didn't go in our first round?
I guess, Bo Nix is probably one. Maybe if we had second round picks as well, someone could trade up to get a 5th-year option on him. That's something that you probably could see at the end of the first rather than Thursday night. Yeah,
I think we could see a Will Levis situation where he doesn't go in the first round and then within minutes he's taken in the second round. Maybe that's what will happen with them. I was literally planning this question because I was thinking, how was Adonai Mitchell not gone? But then he went 31st overall. So that was my guy I had in mind. Freddie or Rory, any players that you thought would have gone but didn't go?
No, I think that's probably how I expected. Troy Franklin's another receiver. If he does get a run on receiver, he could potentially be in there with his speed and production that he had at college. But yeah.
The other guy that he had was a cornerback. Again, I may mispronounce his name. Ennis Rackenstraw Jr. He had 8 tackles for loss, 24 passes defended, and 3 forced fumbles during college. I liked him, but maybe he'll go on.
Chop Robinson maybe is another name as well that a lot of people are saying. I think he lacked the production. He didn't have very many sacks in college, but the athletic testing is something that could push him into the first round, definitely.
Yeah, that's a great name as well. I think this is the year of great names in the NFL, and I don't think this year. I think there's the likes of potentially next year or the year after, the likes of Storm Duck and General Booty. I think that's some names that will be well liked by the NFL fan base. But yeah, that is where we'll then end this podcast for today. And don't forget to keep an eye out for the episode with Matt Cullen next week. We may or may not, depending on my time commitments, bring you a draft review. But certainly you'll get this episode today. And yeah, if you are watching or listening to this podcast, hope you enjoy the draft on Thursday night. In the meantime, don't forget to follow all three boys, Freddy, Sam, and Rory-Joe on Twitter or Instagram. And their details will be on the post when they get released, which will be on a Tuesday night. I will be doing this straight away. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast and 2024 mock draft. I've been, as ever, your host, Andy Davies. This has been Sam Morse. This has been Rory-Joe Daniels. This has been Freddy Harper-Davis. And we will see you guys next time.